Welcome to another contribution for Utopian. My name is Ernesto Toledo and you can see my profile on your screen. Today we will continue with the LibreOffice macros course. For this I have prepared a spreadsheet and some procedures. I'll start by explaining how to apply conditional formats using macros. To achieve this, it is necessary that we have previously created a style that will serve as a conditional format. To create a style, we will select a cell and we will give it the format we want. Now we will unfold the side menu. We will select the Styles and Formats option. And we will click on the New Style from Selection button. Now we must enter the name of the style. For this example, I will assign the name My Style to. Now we will erase the format that we applied to the cell. Let's go now to the procedure. First, I declare some variables and objects. To the cond_set object, I am assigning the com_sun_start_beans property value structure that will allow me to save the parameters of the conditional format. To the cell range object, I assign the rank of B2 to D6. That is, this set of cells. Later, in cond format, I will make a copy of the conditional format structure of cell range. Now I will fill in each of the parameters for cond set. First, you need the name of the property and then the value that will be assigned to it. In name, I will assign the string operator. To assign a value to this attribute, we can use the same options that we used in the previous video. That is, we can use the same conditional operators as in the validations. For this example, I will use the conditional operator less. Now I am going to assign as attribute name Formula1. Remembering the previous tutorial, here we must assign the argument that the conditional operator will receive. In this case, we will discriminate when a value is less than 0. Now, as name, we will use the style name string. As a value for this attribute, we will assign the name of the style that we created at the beginning of this video. In other words, we will assign the MyStyle2 text as string. Now we will use the addNew method of content format to assign the previously defined attributes. Finally, we will assign cond format to cell range.conditional format. Let's execute the procedure. No change is noticed. Remember that the conditional format will only be applied in cells that contain values less than 0. Therefore, if I enter a value greater than 0, no format should be applied. On the other hand, if I enter a lower value, the format will be applied automatically. Let's now turn to the following procedures. In the next procedures, I will show you how to perform queries on ranges of cells. As a first example, we will extract those cells that are empty in a given range. Let's explore the procedure. First, I declare some variables and objects. I assign the range from B2 to D6 to the cell range object, that is, this range. Now I define sep as space, comma, space. Sep will serve as a separator in a text string. I will now use the queryEmpCells function of the cell range object. This function makes a query about the previously indicated range and returns those cells that are empty. Now we can manipulate this group of cells that will. As an example, I will change its background color. To do this, we assign to the cell backcolor property the color defined by this RGB code. That is, we will assign them the green color. I will divide the group of cells into an array. With this, I will achieve continuous ranges. I will now cycle over each array range. We do one more cycle that will go from the initial row to the final row. For this, we use the start row and end row properties. Analogously, we will travel from the first to the last column using the start and end column properties. We will save the position of each of the cells in the cell object, and finally we will save this position in the string S, adding in each new cell the separator. As a result, we will obtain a list of all the cells that are empty in the range. We assign the text string S to the result cell and finally show it in a message box. Let's execute the procedure. As you can see, it has filled the empty green cells and has shown me in a message box each and every one of the cells that are empty. Let's go to the next procedure. In the following procedure, we will do the opposite. That is, we will make a query that allows us to obtain those cells that are filled. The first part of the procedure is similar to the previous one. We use again the range that goes from B2 to D6, and we use the separator space, comma, space to perform a query that allows us to evaluate those cells that have a specific content. We must use the query content cells function. This function allows us to differentiate different types of content. To extract each one, we must use flags. The types of flags we can use are value, date time, string, annotation, or formula. Several flags can be combined using the OR operator. In this case, I use all, that is, I am accepting any type of content in the query. Let's execute the procedure. As you can see, he has only thrown 2 cells. That means that only 2 cells in the specified range are filled. The indicated cells are C3 and C4. The flags indicated above are associated with numerical values and can be substituted by them. We will explore this in the following procedure. This time I take the range that goes from A1 to H12, that is, this range. As a first example, I will use the flags as we did previously. In this case, I am combining the flags corresponding to value and date time. Here I have indicated the numerical equivalences for each of the flags. Value corresponds to 1, date time to 2, string to 3, annotation to 8, and formula to 16. Later, I am using the extracted cells in range function. As arguments, I use the cell range, the separator, and the flags. Let's now explore the function. As you can see, it has the same structure as the previous procedures, and in fact, it returns the text string that lists the cells that are returned from the query. Returning to the procedure, that string is saved in the result variable that I later show through a message box. Let's execute the procedure. As a result, it lists the cells C3, C4, G2, and H2. Let's try to apply the flags numerically. Let's start by testing the value 1 corresponding to value. Let's execute the procedure. As a result, it lists cells C3, C4, and G2. Note that cell H2 has not been marked. Although the dates are represented by numerical values, they are not taken into account within the value category. On the other hand, cell F6 has not been listed. Let's select the cell. As you can see, in fact, it is a formula. Even though its result is a numerical value, it is not considered within the value category either. Let's try now with date time. We execute the procedure. It only shows cell H2. Let's review why it does not show cell H6. As you can also notice, it is a formula. Now we will use the flag corresponding to string. On this occasion, it shows the cells F2, F5, and G5, Once again, we have a cell that contains a string, but it has not been marked. When selecting it, we notice that it is also a formula. I will use the flag corresponding to a notation. In this case, it only shows cell C7. Let's select cell C7. As you can see, we have an annotation. Finally, we use as a flag the value 16, corresponding to formula. Let's execute the procedure. Cells F6, G6, H6, and H5 are listed. We notice that each of these cells contains a formula. Again, we can use the OR operator to combine flags. Let's go to the next procedure. In this procedure, we will use another type of query. We will use the range of cells from A1 to H12, that is, this range. We will use the same separator as in previous procedures. The function that we will use in this occasion will be query formula cells in range. Let's analyze the function. As you can see, it is exactly the same as the extracted cells in range function, with the only difference that in this case we use the query formula cells query. This type of query identifies cells that contain formulas and filters them. Now I will show you the available flags. First of all, we have the flag value, which corresponds to the number 1. This flag allows to obtain those cells that have formulas whose result is numeric. In second place, we have the flag string, corresponding to the number 2. This flag will allow us to obtain the cells with formulas whose result is not numeric. Finally, we have the flag error, corresponds to the number 4. With this last flag, we can obtain all those cells whose formula leads to an error. Let's try the procedure. We use the flag 1. We obtain the cells F6 and H6. Note that in the case of H6, despite being a date, it is identified as numerical value. Let's test the flag 2. Let's execute the procedure. We have as result cell H5 that contains a formula whose result is a string. Finally, occupy the flag 4. As expected, we get the cell G6 as a result. This cell does indeed contain a formula that gives an error as a product. This is because in this one tries to make a sum between a string and a number. As you can see, the queries allow you to obtain the different types of content that the cells have in a very efficient way. This is especially useful when we work with very large tables. I hope you found this video useful. See you!